A warm welcome back to the Information Security Stack, together with me, Daniel Gustafsson, and Kim Hindart. Today, Kim, we will continue, and we will actually finish off the third episode of the From Start to Finish, as we call it, the little mini episode, the mini series that we have been conducting for the last 2 weeks regarding digital transformation. And today we're just going to try to put everything in... Or bread to loaf, yeah, exactly, depending on how you want to see it. We want to try to put some practical aspects to this. Last time around, we talked about the front end and the back end and the APIs and why that was a good thing. Now, what is the actual end usage benefits of a proper digital transformation process within a company? What is the actual benefits of this?
Yes, and let's talk about how has our digital behavior changed lately? Can we recall when we were a bit more analog? I don't know for all of you out there, but there was a time when we didn't have cell phones, you know. Arranging a meeting today has changed a lot. Being late for a meeting has changed a lot. It's more, where do you want to meet? In Uppsala? Yeah, sure, let's meet in Uppsala. What time? After work. Okay. And that's it.
Pretty much.
That didn't work in the area without cell phones, just saying. Wouldn't have worked very well. There's pretty much a lot of different places. Uppsala, different places different places you could potentially meet there. And so with the advance of direct communication everywhere all the time, we, from a personal point in our private lives, have started to become really hyper digital. This can be a challenge for government agencies, organizations, municipalities, because when we get a form that you should fill in by hand and leave to someone today, I bet you a lot of people will be a bit annoyed that this cannot be done digitally.
For sure.
So our digital expectations and our normal digital consumption habits have changed a lot. And this puts pressure on providing appropriate services in line with the digital expectations today. I don't know about you, but I remember once upon a time when you went to a store to rent a movie on a videotape.
Yes.
Those were the days.
It was awesome.
Actually, it's a nice story about when there was an innovation meeting with Blockbuster's CEO and Netflix emerging CEO. And Blockbuster said, why should we care about this Netflix thing? Will never be anything. We dominate the market. And to be fair, Blockbusters was the crazy dominant video rental service in US at that moment.
Oh yeah, they were everywhere. I mean,
they
were
the
the shop you went to. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And you all know what's happened today. Would you rather own shares in Netflix or Blockbusters, if you ask me? Exactly. I bet a few of them would actually prefer Netflix over Blockbusters today. I have a small guess about that. Because do we see Blockbusters anywhere? Here. No. Gone. And this is also part of the digital transformation drives new habits, even for us on a personal level. So the expectations of a digital service is really high. And then we have the correlation with legacy systems. that are hard to change. And this is part of what we talked about actually. We have come to this part where we actually see that we are not a library that's totally analog anymore. We do actually have databases that we work towards. But still, we have a long way to go before we have a fully agile interface. And this is a part of, you can actually alter the interface and modernize that, even though you have really old databases or data backends. When everything comes to the point, all data processing, everything in a data processing scenario, everything digital, can be broken down to the CRUD method. Create, read, update, delete. Those are interactions of every data. And if you think about it, even a game, even when you're playing Grand Theft Auto, you create, you read, you update, and you delete.
Yeah.
That's what you do. Rather, you have a game controller and do interfaces, not with a keyboard or mouse, but you do some interfaces, and things happen and it updates. Even playing a game, these 4 basic principles are everything when you process something digital. So yeah, it can be broken down to that. So every application can be broken down to scenarios how you do these 4 things in a structured manner.
Yep.
And then you can have really, really ancient backends as well, but you can change this to interface. And of course, not every interface is appropriate for a gaming interface, but I for sure, one would think it would be awesome if we could do your tax returns through a hand controller. But yeah,
for sure.
So that's something for you, dear IRS. Make a tax return game.
Exactly. We want a PlayStation 4 game where
With
you
a
can
hand
do your
controller
tax
into it.
returns. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
How awesome would that be?
Exactly. But so, of course, some things are better done with a mouse and keyboard, and some things are better done hand controller wise and stuff. But the same principles, create, read, update, and delete data, is the same thing that's been done actually with everything digital consumption. So my point is being that if we have and allow for APIs, and if we allow for data, you can modernize a lot without being bound. But this takes, of course, the thing. The biggest thing people, I think, look at stuff and get stuck in this transformation when we call genuine digital transformation. That's when you modernize the interfaces and you can automate stuff. You can modernize interfaces to talk to other stuff. You don't need to change the original backend data things, the data heavy things, the heavy legacy things, even if you don't need to. You can still use a modernized interface on your stuff. That said, I mean, any data stored, anything digital stored, can of course be migrated. If you have anything digital stored on a file, for instance, and it's supposed to be readable in any system, it can be how ancient a digital system as possible. But if you still can open and read this file, the data there would be structured in a manner that's readable. If anything digital is readable, you can of course also convert it to a modern storage system. So the transformation today is moving data, digital data, from legacy systems that are not really, really very flexible to systems that are a lot faster for change. And I firmly believe that people think there's a lift and shift. We can take one system that runs on old mainframes and now we put it in the cloud and now we're agile. No.
No.
You're really not. That's not the thing. You can take the data from that system, put it on a modern data storage platform, add a new interface, but keep all the functionality. Because any interface with the data, any business logic with the data needs to follow a specific set of rules. And those can be copied and migrated to a modern platform. And it's much easier if you have it on a modern platform to modernize it, change it, improve it than it is. But this is what I say. When anything is digital and it's consumable by a human, then it's readable. You can also migrate it to a new modern platform.
Yeah.
That's the nice part with being digital. You see, ta-ta, you can copy it.
Yes.
So when people say, no, we cannot, it's impossible. No, it's not. It's digital. It's one thing if you have the Library of Alexandria with papyrus scrolls. Those are hard to digitalize without a lot of work. But if you already have a huge mainframe that contains a lot of data records, you can still read them. So you can still copy them out in a digital format, and you can still then transform them, migrate them, and store them somewhere else. Have you heard?
Exactly.
But yeah, I fully agree, and I totally agree that we have a bunch of critical systems that should be upgraded but can't really afford any downtime. And that's also part of how really crazy dependent we are on things running 24/7. Air traffic control systems is one of those, for instance.
Yes.
It's hard to say, at this hour we will have a downtime due to maintenance. They have a tendency to say, okay, so we should stop global air traffic for this time. Yeah,
Exactly.
you might end up in some trouble there. So absolutely, certain systems are hard. Unfortunately, a lot, as we see today, make the transformation harder than it need to be. So this is part of what we're talking about, preparing to be flexible to change. Because what is the one true thing we know for certain will happen in the digital world?
It's going to change.
It will change.
Yeah.
You will always need to change. So we really have no clue what we need to change to. What we know for really certain is if you're not prepared to move quickly and change quickly and adapt to the ever-growing, ever-expanding, and ever new things you see in the digital world, you tend to be very stuck. And you tend to lose a lot of support from your customers, users.
Yeah, I mean the biggest risk we see today. I mean, if it's been proven time and time again. Startups today, they have one ambition, and that is to kill off the old dragon in the forest, essentially. Meaning, the old legacy company who's been around forever, like new digital banks and new digital marketing platforms or social media, whatever it might be, right? So the whole idea, if you have an old legacy system which is really, really, really slow to transform and change, you will get passed by the up and coming quick changing, quick transforming company who has one strategy and one strategy only, and that is to launch a digital platform which they can change the interface immediately, over again, because today's loyalty amongst users is very, very low. I mean, I can look at myself. If I run a service which is lacking features, I look for the next service similar to that one doing the same thing with a better feature, and I'll move to there. So if you can't update the features in your system, I'm gonna leave you. As simple as that. It's very disloyal user base today, which might not be the case 20 years ago.
And this is also, for instance, true. Just remember our reference to blockbusters. They did not prepare to change quickly.
No.
And was run over by newer services. But another more closely related thing, cable TV providers.
Mm.
How much cable TV are we talking about today existing still? It's
Very
streaming
little.
now,
Yeah, very
and it's
little, right?
streaming all the way.
Very little. Yeah.
So, and this we can discuss. Did they adapt in time? Were they prepared for the changes? Did they have the infrastructure in place to be able to change?
Yeah,
But yeah, but as I said,
I think the latter is closer to the reality. I think they just had a platform which was too hard to change, or the unwillingness to change it. Mm.
and as I said, okay, as I tried to tell you, that you can actually adapt your technical platform to be more agile, to be prepared for change. So let's say, okay, we move our entire technical platform to entirely new program base, to a new storage base, to a new way of doing things. We go fully modern with containers, with Kubernetes, with everything there, with microservices running all the time. Choo! Now, of course, we are ready for change.
Yes, of course we are. Because all we need is technical systems, right? Or do we?
Or yeah, there will still be humans operating them. Even though I firmly believe that the AI will be crazy on the march right now. It's pretty scary if you look at the AI development right now, how fast it goes. But I firmly believe that humans will still be end operating systems before at the moment I die.
Before our time on this earth is over, there will still be humans be involved somewhere, somehow, for sure, absolutely. And even though if we develop super intelligent AIs, someone is still going to develop those super intelligent AIs until we end up in a world when they develop themselves, and then it's time to run. And that's all I can say. But that's a different story. We've seen the movie how that went. But with that being said, if you don't get the people with you to adapt to these new systems, new services, new way of working, you can buy all the technical platforms in the world who are super modern and super brilliant. They're still not going to do you any benefits. You still need to get the people on board to actually want to change and adapt to the new way of working. And that's essentially what we're going to spend the next 2 episodes of this podcast to talk about. How do we actually how do we make that happen?
Because humans are not prone to fast changes.
No, we kind of don't want to change at all. Actually, it's kind of convenient not to change. That's the problem, right?
So, as I said, from a digital point, even if you have a really ancient legacy system, as long as you can read stuff digitally, you can modernize it. And believe me when I say, even if you might think it, it's well worth modernizing it, because you need to be prepared to change fast, because otherwise you will not keep up with the digital world, because we know it will change fast. What's true today will not be true tomorrow. That we know for sure in the digital world. That's one thing. Secondly, it's not the migration thing that's the big problem from a technical point. It's the human side of things in between here. That's also a big point. And they also need to be prepared to change. So they like change from an improvement point. But if you ask humans, do you want to change? Are you yourself prepared to change? Now we're talking a bit more resistance here. That's not as easy. And are you prepared to lead a change? Well, now we're pretty empty here. So. And that's what we're going to talk about in the coming episodes.
Exactly. So we're going to spend the next 2 weeks talking about that, essentially, because that's a huge portion of it. And I think that is something in this industry in general we talk way too little about. And we also have this agenda to try to get people away from it. We don't want to talk about people, because we want to talk about all the brilliant technical things we can do. And even the technicians building these technical brilliant systems don't even want to admit that they are people sometimes, because it's, why can't we just all be robots, right? But until then, we still have a transition period to go through from a human perspective as well. So we will spend the next 2 episodes talking about that.
It's interesting. I would like to know from the listeners, would you really, really like it if we could do a direct brain interface and program people? I know certain people think that's totally awesome. I think it's really scary, but yeah.
That's just us, right? So
exactly. So that might be a discussion. But as I wanted to try and highlight here and try and explain at least that the tech part, once you've finally ended up with something digital, it's easy enough to modernize it because everything digital from digital processing scenario comes down to these 4 basic principles again: create, read, update, and delete. Everything digital can be broken down to these 4 scenarios in certain rules, in certain business logic behind them, of course, but everything can be broken down to this. So yes, the nice part with the digital world is still you can migrate something digital to something modern digital in a lot easier manner than migrating something analog to something digital. So yeah.
Exactly. So that pretty much sums it up. Get digital to change quicker. Get digital to stay relevant. Get digital to still have an ability to adapt to whatever the market is throwing at you next. And most importantly, you need to keep up the end user likability of your service. Do they actually like your service will be very much dependent on your ability to change your technical platform fast enough. And that doesn't always have to be an end customer. It could be an end user in your company as well. It could be a matter of keeping people or losing people who works for you as well. So that's why we want to highlight.
You need to understand the consumption. The consumption patterns in a digital consumption today is a lot different than it was just 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago.
For sure.
And what we know for sure is it will absolutely not be the same in 5 years' time.
Exactly.
So prepare for change.
Let's wrap. Yeah, prepare for change. Here it comes. And be willing to change. And in the next episode, we will talk about you, the person listening to this. And we will talk about your willingness to change. Does it match the ambition of your technical systems? Yes or no? And if you want to ask questions to us, if you want to be part of the poll, I think we should have a poll regarding the brain interface thing. That was a good thing. But if you want to be part of that, you can find all of those type of information on citynetwork.eu/podcast. And if nothing else, have a great weekend, depending on when you're listening to this, and we'll talk to you in the next episode.
Hubba.